You need to tell me the story about this guy who tried to deport you.
Oh man,
What was that about?
I can tell. That's a funny history. All the guys in Ecuador know that. Like when
Yeah.
I moved to Ecuador, I tried to organize a tournament, and on those days, purple belts, and there was like 5 or 6 purple belts in the whole country. I was the only black belt in the country. They never competed because purple belt it was like a coral belt. It's almost a red belt. There are
Yeah.
like the masters. So I organized a tournament. It was exactly the year that Carson Gracie died, so I called the tournament the Carson Gracie Cup, and I invited all the purple belts to go to the tournament. And some of those guys they had their own gym. It looked like that was uh, a samurai challenge. Like I went for the gym to invite them for a life or death match. That was on their minds. And I say that to my students too. And I have like a couple of students, like when I get an invitation to stay 3 months in Ecuador, that was 2 different gyms that become one school together, and to be able to pay me to stay that time there. And it was not easy because they are from different schools, and they start to a rivalry between the students. So some blue belt under the Iturraldis will get like a break the arm of a blue belt from the Garcia coach. And then I made the tournament, and I put all my purple belts to this tournament to compete. And one of the guys, like the Garcia instructor, he went to the tournament as one of my students, and he lost. And he's like a guy who talks too much. He used to be like famous in the discos and like street fighters and everything. And he's supposed to be like the national champion because he never fought in Ecuador before. And then he lost. He lost for another of my students, another purple belt. And then he decided that he lost. It was my fault because he lost in front of the girls, in front of his family, and he left the gym and started to talk some bullshit about me and blah, blah, blah. And then I faced him in a seminar, and I got opportunity to hold with him, and I was beating him. I was just trying to show him how his level was low comparing to my level, and he tried to punch me. And then he started like a fight on the seminar, and the dad of this guy was like a very important military guy in the country. And then I was teaching. I got all my papers in Ecuador. Like, man, I don't need to fight like for a green card in Ecuador, like in US. I was legal in Ecuador. But then the militaries went to the dojo and get me
Noguera?
and put me in the jail. I took like 2 nights in the jail, and as I get almost deported because this guy was scared me. Was scared because he was talking bullshit about me, and I was telling that, man, I will find you on the streets and I will punch you. I will choke you out. And then that was like Ecuador. It's a small country, man, 10 million inhabitants.
Yeah, yeah.
And then I had this guy had a very high level military dad trying to deport me. And I had some students trying to, hey man, don't deport this guy. And that is one of the reasons that I stay in Ecuador. Like, man, if they want to deport me, I want to stay. Like, man,
Yeah.
I don't want to go
You're a
deported
rule
by
breaker.
Ecuador to Brazil. Yeah, and also they make some tramps with me. One time when I left Ecuador, like the militaries on the immigration, they didn't stamp that I was leaving. And then when I come back to Ecuador, they didn't let me come in Ecuador. So I spent some time in Peru doing papers. I crossed the border with lawyers and everything to be able to be back in Ecuador. So it was crazy time. Like uh, doesn't sound real those histories because it's that happens in Brazil in the 70s or in the 80s. But
Right.
to make BJJ grew in Ecuador, I was like accepting challenges, and I also invade some gyms. People was telling bullshit on the internet, and man, like this exactly guy, that same guy, that guy that I get the trouble that he put me in
Here,
jail. He did
let's
it.
move you back just a little bit and to your left, just so you stay in the
Okay,
frame. But yeah, there you
okay.
go. But continue.
So this guy, he was doing his grand opening of his new gym.
The
And
same
then
guy
I
that tried to
decided to,
deport you?
yeah, yeah. And then I
Yeah.
decided to go there alone. If I go there with my students, it will be like a group fight, and then I go there alone and say, hey man, you are not telling a lot of bullshit about me that you would like to fight me on the streets on MMA. Okay, man, I'm at your dojo, and I'm here. If you want to fight me, I'm good to go.
Yeah.
So back in the days, things are kind of crazy. Like nowadays, it's those histories doesn't happen anymore. There is no, it's nonsense.
Right.
But when I arrived in Ecuador, if I don't if I don't do that, if I don't accept that challenge, if I don't put myself on that situations, BJJ in Ecuador will not be which is now.
How do you think that affected your coaching style?